Sirius spat in disgust as he watched the pathetic human chef fumble with the advanced molecular gastronomy equipment. He knew the technologically inferior humans would be useless in the Adosians' cooking arenas. Their fate was sealed. Earth would burn under Adosian rule, its people shackled as slaves, all because of this chef's incompetence. Johnny Roberts, considered a culinary prodigy back on Earth, had been abducted by the galaxy-conquering Adosians to compete in a series of high-stakes cooking challenges against their master chef Sirius. The Adosians viewed themselves as the supreme civilization, having subjugated countless worlds. They judged a species' worth solely on their culinary skills. And the human was failing miserably, as Sirius had expected. If Johnny couldn't prove humanity's value, the Adosians would deem his kind worthless and invade. Billions would suffer under their cruel reign. The future of Earth itself hung in the balance. Sirius cackled as Johnny struggled to operate the foreign cooking contraptions, taunting him. "Your feeble attempts merely confirm what we already knew, human. Your kind has no place in our galactic order. You will be crushed like vermin beneath our boots." The Adosian audience roared with laughter, ridiculing the pitiful Terran who dared to challenge their superiority. They pelted Johnny with half-eaten scraps from the previous rounds, booing his every move. But Johnny blocked out the jeers and Sirius's scathing insults. His mind drifted back to his childhood, remembering long hours spent in the kitchen with his dad, learning age-old culinary wisdom passed down for generations. Something clicked. He looked around at the bizarre alien ingredients surrounding him, dozens of unpronounceable proteins and foreign vegetation. His gaze drifted to the advanced cooking stations, tools capable of manipulating food at the molecular level. Johnny rolled up his sleeves, newfound determination pulsing through him. He began grabbing ingredients, mind-whirring. He would find a way to merge his tried-and-true human techniques with these strange alien components. He had to. Every man, woman, and child on Earth depended on him. As the human worked feverishly, hands flying over the cooking stations in a creative flurry, tantalizing aromas began to waft over the arena. The Adosian spectators stopped mid-insult, eye stalks swiveling as unfamiliar scents tickled their palates. Sirius furrowed his brow. The human was up to something. He had combined their ingredients in peculiar new fashions and integrated them with his rudimentary, traditional cooking approaches. The smells were unlike anything the ravenous crowd had experienced. The first challenge ended. Johnny presented his plates to the judges with shaking hands. This was it, the moment of truth. All of humanity's fate rested on Sirius's reaction to his unconventional culinary creations. The master chef bent down, sample fork in his primary tentacle. He scooped a morsel, green eye stalks narrowing as he regarded it. With a derisive snort, he shoved it into his waiting maw, and there was stunned silence. Sirius's eye stalks twitched erratically as his flavor receptors were bombarded by the explosive medley of tastes and textures. The tough, battle-scarred Adosian trembled, his knees nearly buckling under the weight of the revelation. Around the arena, the raucous jeers faded into hushed whispers as the other judges sampled Johnny's offerings. One by one, their expressions morphed from sneering contempt to wide-eyed amazement. Forks clattered to plates as they grappled with the unprecedented flavors assaulting their senses. Millennia of culinary tradition and an unwavering belief in their own superiority crumbled like a stale crust in the face of Johnny's audacious innovation. The human stood before them, sweat trickling down his brow, heart thundering against his ribs as he awaited judgment. The arena was so quiet, you could hear a tentacle drop. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the head judge rose to his feet. "Human," he rumbled, voice echoing through the stillness. "Your dishes were technically impressive, innovative even. It seems we may have underestimated your species' potential." Johnny let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. A flicker of hope ignited in his chest. "However," the judge continued, fixing him with a stern glare, "do not grow complacent. This is merely the first round. The challenges ahead will test the very limits of your abilities. Johnny nodded solemnly. I understand. I won't let you down. Or humanity. He thought of his father, of everyone back on Earth counting on him. Failure was not an option. The judge waved a dismissive tentacle. We shall see. Rest now. For tomorrow, you face Chef Zygax in a battle unlike any you have encountered before. As Johnny exited the arena to the begrudging murmurs of the Adoshan spectators, he caught Sirius's gaze. The master chef glared at him, eyes smoldering with resentment and something almost like respect. The next day, Johnny found himself standing on the arid, cracked surface of a hostile alien world. Toxic winds whipped at his face, carrying the acrid stench of decay. In the distance, Zygax's hulking form could be seen, already foraging for ingredients among the gnarled, twisted vegetation. Johnny gritted his teeth, squaring his shoulders against the relentless gale. He had to focus, to dig deep and remember everything his father taught him. He scanned his surroundings, desperately searching for anything edible in this barren hellscape. Hours crawled by as he scoured the landscape, the unforgiving sun beating down on his back. His suit was drenched with sweat, his muscles screaming in protest. But he pushed forward, driven by desperation and a refusal to fail. Just as he was about to collapse from exhaustion, Johnny spotted something in the distance. A glimmer of vibrant color amidst the muted grays and browns. He staggered towards it, barely daring to hope. It was an oasis, a hidden pocket of lush alien plant life, teeming with strange fruits and writhing creatures. Johnny nearly wept with relief as he gathered samples, mind racing with recipe ideas. He barely made it back to the arena kitchen before collapsing. Zygax was already there, smugly prepping his ingredients. The Adoshan shot him a disdainful look, upper lip curled in a sneer. Johnny paid him no mind. He had a job to do. He arranged his alien ingredients, studying them intently. They were unlike anything he'd worked with before, but he'd figure it out. He had to. As the timer began, Johnny threw himself into his cooking with single-minded focus. He coaxed flavors from the bizarre plants, cajoled textures from the squirming meat. He seasoned with ash from the toxic surface, balanced flavors with the juice from bioluminescent fruits. Slowly, under his diligent hands, something began to take shape. Zygax worked feverishly across from him, all four hands blurring as he manipulated the ingredients with cutting-edge molecular gastronomy techniques. The Adoshan muttered under his breath, shooting periodic glances at Johnny's station, derision evaporate as the human's concoctions took form. The last seconds ticked away. Johnny wiped the sweat from his brow with a shaking hand, surveying his plates. It would have to do. Time was called. Johnny and Zygax stepped back, chests heaving. Now it was all up to the judges. They sampled Zygax's dishes first, nodding approvingly at the elegant plating and refined flavors. Johnny's heart sank. He was a fool to think he could compete with centuries of Adoshan culinary mastery. But then the judges turned to his dishes. They paused, eyeing the bizarre amalgamations with blatant skepticism. Scooping up a morsel with precise robotic movements, they raised it to their lips. The first judge's eye stalks flew wide open, jaw dropping in shock. The others quickly followed suit, a ripple of astonishment passing through their ranks as they tasted Johnny's creations. Sirius shot to his feet in the stands, fork clattering to the ground from nerveless fingers. It couldn't be. The human had done it again. In the awed silence of the arena, the head judge cleared his throat. The winner of this round is the human, Johnny. The words were tinged with disbelief, as though he couldn't quite fathom what he was saying. The Adoshan crowd erupted. Some cheered, welcoming the unprecedented excitement Johnny brought to the jaded arena. Others hollered in outrage, demanding recounts and retastings. Through it all, Johnny stood numb. He'd won. He'd actually won. He was one step closer to saving humanity. Sirius approached him as the crowd filed out, eyes narrowed. "Congratulations, human," he spat, voice dripping with disdain. "You've impressed me. But don't grow complacent. The true test is yet to come." Johnny met the master chef's gaze steadily. "I'll be ready." Johnny's heart raced as the Adocian judges announced the final challenge. "This will be a test of endurance like no other," the lead judge boomed. "A multi-day cooking marathon with no breaks. You will forage, cook, and create without rest." Before Johnny could process this, he found himself whisked away to a desolate alien world. Harsh winds whipped across barren plains dotted with strange vegetation. Nearby, his Adocian competitors were already scurrying about, their multiple limbs giving them a clear advantage as they gathered ingredients. Johnny stumbled forward, fatigue already setting in. The unforgiving terrain made every step a challenge. As he struggled to collect unfamiliar plants and creatures, he heard Sirius's mocking voice from a floating observation platform. "Look at the human fumble. His kind lacks the stamina for true culinary greatness." Gritting his teeth, Johnny pressed on. He thought back to camping trips with his father, recalling how they'd foraged for wild berries and mushrooms. "Focus, Johnny," he muttered. "You've done this before, just on a much weirder scale." He fashioned a crude basket from flexible alien vines, filling it with colorful fungi and what appeared to be some kind of six-legged crustacean. As he worked, the judges periodically materialized, barking new requirements. "Your next dish must incorporate sonically activated spores. We demand a cold appetizer using only bioluminescent ingredients." Johnny's mind raced to keep up, but he found himself falling behind. The Adocian chefs moved with practiced efficiency, their dishes growing more elaborate by the hour. Days blurred together. Johnny's hands shook from exhaustion as he prepared dish after dish, but slowly he began to find his rhythm. He combined foraged ingredients in ways the Adocians had never considered. A stew made from crater-dwelling tubers and magma-heated spring water. A delicate pastry crafted from the silk of local arachnids. The judges' eye stalks widened in surprise as they tasted Johnny's creations. Even Sirius fell silent, his earlier mockery replaced by a look of grudging respect. But as Johnny's dishes gained favor, the other chefs grew desperate. He awoke one morning to find his ingredient stores ransacked. Later, an Adocian competitor accidentally knocked over his simmering pot of rare mushroom broth. Johnny refused to give up. He redoubled his foraging efforts, venturing into treacherous ravines to find untapped resources. His body ached, his vision blurred from lack of sleep, but he pushed through. In the final hours, Johnny poured everything he had left into one last dish. He combined techniques learned from his father with the alien ingredients and technology at his disposal. The result was a culinary masterpiece that defied description, familiar yet utterly alien, a true fusion of two worlds. As the judges sampled Johnny's creation, the arena fell silent. Then, to everyone's shock, Sirius stepped forward. I must admit defeat," the Adocian master chef declared. "This human has shown us the error of our ways. His resourcefulness, his creativity, they surpass even our greatest chefs." The crowd erupted in a cacophony of cheers and outraged protests. Sirius raised his voice, silencing them all. "We were fools to dismiss other species. True greatness comes from diversity, from the blending of traditions and techniques we never imagined." Johnny swayed on his feet, barely able to stand. As the implications of his victory sank in, he realized this was about far more than just a cooking competition. He had opened the door to a new era of cooperation between humanity and the Adocians. Exhausted but triumphant, Johnny looked to the stars, wondering what new culinary frontiers awaited him next. Johnny's victory sent shockwaves through the Adocian culinary world. As he stood on the stage, basking in his triumph, he noticed the crowd's reaction shifting. What started as cheers of amazement quickly turned to murmurs of discontent. Sirius, once the pinnacle of Adocian cuisine, now faced a barrage of criticism. Johnny overheard snippets of heated arguments as he left the arena. "How dare Sirius praise this human? He's betrayed everything we stand for. Resign now, traitor." The backlash was swift and fierce. Johnny watched as Sirius was accosted by a group of chefs in traditional Adocian garb, their eye stalks quivering with rage. You've made a mockery of our heritage, one shouted, jabbing a tentacle at Sirius's chest. Step down immediately. Before Johnny could process the chaos, he felt a gentle tug on his sleeve. He turned to find an Idosian chef, her movements furtive as she gestured for him to follow. Quickly, she whispered. It's not safe here. Confused but sensing the urgency, Johnny allowed himself to be led through a maze of back corridors. They emerged in a dimly lit alley where a small group of Idosians waited. I'm Zarila, the chef who'd led him there said. We're the Culinary Liberation Front. You're cooking. It's exactly what we've been waiting for. Johnny's head spun as Zarila explained their cause. Years of rigid tradition, stifling creativity, all in the name of Idosian culinary purity. His fusion dishes represented a way out, a chance to break free. Before he could fully grasp the situation, Johnny found himself whisked aboard a nondescript transport ship. The vessel hummed to life, slipping away from the Idosian homeworld under cover of darkness. Hours later, they docked at a hidden asteroid base. Johnny stepped out, marveling at the state-of-the-art kitchen facilities that greeted him. This is our headquarters, Zarila said, pride evident in her voice. From here, we'll launch a culinary revolution that will change Idosian society forever. Johnny's mind reeled. Wait, hold on, I'm just a chef. I didn't sign up for any revolution. Zarila fixed him with an intense stare. Your cooking has the power to change minds, to open eyes. We need you, Johnny. The entire Idosian culinary world needs you. As Johnny wavered, another rebel chef spoke up. Think of all the aspiring Idosian cooks stifled by tradition. You can give them hope. The weight of responsibility settled on Johnny's shoulders. He thought of his own journey, of his father's encouragement to push boundaries. Slowly, he nodded. All right, he said. What's the plan? Zarilla's eyes lit up. She outlined their daring scheme, hijacking a major cooking competition broadcast to showcase Johnny's revolutionary dishes. Within days, they put their plan into action. Johnny found himself in front of cameras, cooking for an unseen audience of millions. His hands moved with practiced precision as he combined Idosian spices with earth techniques, creating something entirely new. As he worked, Cyrilla's voice came through his earpiece. Loyalist forces are raiding our decoy locations. Sirius himself is searching for us. We need to make this count. Johnny took a deep breath, presenting his first dish to the camera. A fusion of Idosian slug fruit and human molecular gastronomy techniques. The result was a vibrant, pulsating sphere that burst with flavor. This, Johnny announced, is the future of cuisine. No boundaries, no restrictions, just pure culinary creativity. Across Idosian cities, viewers watched in awe. In homes and restaurants, heated debates erupted. Some decried it as heresy, while others saw it as a revelation. In a dingy bar in the culinary underground, Sirius watched the broadcast, his expression unreadable. He turned to his loyalist forces. Find them, he growled. Whatever it takes. Back in the rebel kitchen, Johnny prepared for his next dish, acutely aware that the fate of Idosian cuisine hung in the balance. The real challenge was yet to come. Johnny's heart raced as he stood face to face with Sirius in the rebel stronghold's secret kitchen. The air crackled with tension, the distant sounds of loyalist forces surrounding the compound adding to the pressure. Zarilla's voice came through a hidden speaker. We're live, Johnny. The entire Idosian Empire is watching. The timer beeped, and both chefs sprang into action. Sirius moved with cold efficiency, his forearms a blur as he precisely measured ingredients for a traditional Idosian dish. Johnny's approach was more frenetic, grabbing seemingly random items from the pantry and combining them in ways that made the watching rebels gasp. What are you doing? Sirius hissed, eye stalks swiveling to glare at Johnny. That's not how you prepare Grolnak spice. Johnny ignored him, focused on his creation. He combined earth techniques with alien ingredients, his hands shaking slightly from exhaustion, but never faltering. As he worked, Sirius attempted to sabotage him, accidentally bumping into Johnny's station and knocking over a crucial component. Oops, Sirius said. his tone dripping with false sincerity. How clumsy of me. Johnny gritted his teeth and pressed on, improvising a replacement on the fly, the kitchen filled with a cacophony of sizzling pans, bubbling pots, and the rhythmic chopping of knives. As the final seconds ticked away, Johnny placed the finishing touches on his dish, a swirling, color-shifting concoction that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Sirius, meanwhile, presented a flawless tower of perfectly arranged Edosian delicacies. The judges approached, their expressions unreadable. They sampled Sirius's dish first, nodding appreciatively at the familiar flavors. But when they turned to Johnny's creation, chaos erupted. One judge recoiled, tentacles curling in disgust. Another's eye stalks widened in shock, while a third let out an involuntary chirp of surprise. The lead judge, after a moment's hesitation, took a bite. His reaction was immediate and visceral, a full-body shudder followed by an expression of wonder. This is unlike anything I've ever tasted, he proclaimed. Before he could say more, an explosion rocked the compound. Debris rained down as loyalist forces breached the outer defenses. In the ensuing chaos, the lead judge shouted his verdict. "The winner is Johnny!" Sirius roared in rage, lunging at Johnny with a knife. Time seemed to slow as the blade arced through the air. Suddenly, Zyrilla was there, throwing herself between them. The knife plunged into her chest, and she crumpled to the floor. "No!" Johnny cried, catching her as she fell. Rebels swarmed Sirius, wrestling him to the ground. Cyrilla gazed up at Johnny, her voice weak. "Don't let this be for nothing. Keep fighting, for culinary freedom." As her eyes closed, Johnny felt a surge of grief and commitment. He looked up to see rebels ushering him towards an escape route, the sounds of battle growing closer. "We need to go," a rebel shouted, tugging at Johnny's arm. With one last look at Zarilla's still form, Johnny allowed himself to be led away. As they raced through hidden tunnels, he vowed to honor her sacrifice and continue the fight for culinary innovation, regardless of the cost.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.